When I first heard the name Bombas, I thought it was a new Mexican restaurant opening somewhere. But it's actually a sock company that has a really interesting business model. Bombas donates for every pair of socks you buy an identical pair to a homeless shelter. So you can feel good when you buy your socks from them in knowing that you're making a difference. And they make sure that you think about that too. One of their advertising slogans is, "You can change the world while treating yourself to the best socks around." This is a new trend in marketing and sales that's called cause shopping, making a difference by the way you purchase. And I think overall, it's a very good trend. You've seen it in other ways too. Maybe some of you use the Amazon Smile option on your account so that some of your purchase profit goes directly to a charity that you care about. Some of us have long ago decided to focus on buying only fair trade chocolate or fair trade coffee. And it would be nice if that was all it took. It would be nice if I could change the world while wearing really cushy socks and drinking really good coffee. But we all know better than that. While that might make a difference, that is not where our responsibility as Christians ends. We can't change the world just by our shopping. We need to get in a little deeper than that. One of the things that we hear is that when we get involved in the lives of people who are struggling and in the lives of people who are poor, it is going to get messy. It's going to get messy fast. It's not going to feel nice and neat, like getting a little email notification saying, "Here's your purchase order, and just a reminder, 5 cents from this order went directly to the rainforest." It's always more involved than that. Not long ago, there was a couple that approached our church wanting to get married. And we knew from talking with them that things had been hard for them. She had had a lifetime of difficulty being raised in a poor family and then going from low-paying job to low-paying job. He was a really good guy who had had some real struggles with addiction, and some of those struggles had led him through some jail time. When they approached us, they were a little bit late to the game, and not all of the paperwork was in order for their wedding. So we were not able to marry them in the customary way, but there were a lot of things that were loose in their situation, and we wanted to help them. So we helped them arrange a civil ceremony under our tent. And then we realized that they didn't have any money for the reception. And so we worked together to get some decor for the tent and to have a little bit of a celebration kind of feel there. And we let them use that space for a little reception. And then, as we followed them along the way, we found out that the pastor of his church, since he wasn't Catholic, had worked together with some of the parishioners in that community to scrape together money to buy them a used car. So when we checked in on them recently, we asked where they'd been because we hadn't seen them, and they said, "Well, we got evicted from an apartment in town, and so we had to go to the only apartment we could afford, which was in Washington County, really far away." And I said, "Well, but what about the car?" And they said the transmission went on it 3 months after we got it. And we've got it covered up with a tarp, but we don't have the money for that right now, and so we're just waiting. And so then we said, well, maybe we can give you a little bit of help by giving you some work here. We've got a lot of things we're doing at the school. And then we realized that because he had a record, he couldn't be in the school when children were there, so we had to do everything at night. And then we realized that there was nowhere for them to stay if they were here doing work in the school, and so we were going to have to put them up in a hotel. And it went on, and it went on. And a couple of our staff members wound up spending the entire day, several days in a row, taking care of this couple. And what we hear in the first reading is, God says, that is a great use of a day. That is a great use of a day. To have set aside your to-do list, to enter into the chaos that is part of every day in the life of someone who is poor. One of the ways that we know that we've gotten involved in the lives of the poor is if we know their names and if they know our names. If we can call someone who is struggling by name, then we know that we've gotten into the depth of their life a little more than just buying something online and then clicking and finding out that the purchase went and helped some faraway charity. When we know their names, we are much closer to connecting with the poor the way that God does, with that kind of wonderful, protective, parent-like love. And what we're hearing is, we're going to wind up spending money on this. We're not going to be able to do it neatly as part of the budget that we have for chocolate or for socks or for coffee. It's going to wind up taking some of our resources. And only when we realize that God intends those resources to be shared will we understand that we're part of a larger plan. A friend of mine grew up as one of 6 kids, and as they got older, their mom got older too, and when she was in her 80s, it was becoming clear that she was not going to be able to stay in her home much longer. So the adult siblings called together a family meeting, and they all got together, and each of them was talking about how to handle the challenge of mom's health care. And one of them spoke up and said, one of the sisters, you know, my twins are in senior year right now, and we've got all these college visits to do. There's all these events going on. I don't think I can take care of mom. And then another brother chimed in. He said, you know, I've been traveling a lot for work lately, and it's a really busy time for my business. I can't take care of mom. And finally, one of the siblings said, wait a minute. We can't just sit here in a circle telling each other how we can't help mom. That's not going to get us anywhere. And that's exactly how it is with the poor. It's easy to come up with reasons why it can't be me that helps this person this day. I can't be the one to get involved. But that's never going to work if we're truly a family. That's not what God is intending for us. God intends for everyone who is not serving mammon, as we heard in the gospel, but is choosing to serve God, to be willing to get a little messy, a little dirty in knowing and caring for those who need it. One of the things that becomes a real shift for us is when we realize, since this matters so much to God, we need the poor more than they need us. Since this is one of God's highest priorities, it is going to be difficult for us to plead our case before God if we don't have a single person in need or a person in poverty who knows us by name. We don't reach out and help the poor because they're Catholic. We do it because we're Catholic, because we're the ones who are serving God. And while they may need our help, they don't need it nearly as much as we need them to vouch for us before God. So this week, we are being asked to check in and see just how messy we have let our lives get in order to stand up for the poor. Have we gotten ourselves in over our head at least once? Have we been able to know someone who's poor by name and have them know our name too? It would be so much easier if cause shopping alone could do it. But we're hearing in the gospel that that's That's not what Jesus was talking about. It's a good thing. It's a good trend. And it probably, because of the scale, does a ton of good. But it could also make our consciences go to sleep in thinking that we've already done it. We've already done our part as we bite the chocolate and sip the coffee. But it's going to take a lot more than that in order for us to really feel the connection with the poor that is God's wish for us. Recently, we had a parishioner applying for housing, and he needed, in order to get his application filled, 3 references. And he's had a really hard time of it. He's had a lot of troubles, and he's had a life that's been filled with difficulty. And so we really wanted to help him out. And as we were helping him fill out this complicated application, he said to me, "Father, would you be a reference for me?" And I said, "Absolutely, you can put my name down as a reference." But then there was still room for one more. And so he looked at one of our staff members and he said, "Would you be a reference for me?" And the staff member said, "Absolutely." And since the staff member was helping fill out the form, he filled out his own name. And then next to it, it said relationship. And he said, "What do you think I should put down for our relationship?" And the man looked at him and he said, "Put down friend." And I was so jealous when I heard that. Put down friend. Can you imagine how God feels about that? Can you imagine walking through the gates into heaven and hearing somebody point to us before God and say, "There's my friend. There they are. That's the one who helped me." Mother Teresa once said, "It's only at the end of life, only when we get to heaven, are we going to realize how much we owe the poor for helping us love God better because of them."